David, the truck driver, got really frustrated when he was blocked by a rich woman. Despite honking several times, she didn't budge from her luxury car. One wonders what on earth was she thinking? David's retaliation to her behavior is nothing short of priceless. She firmly made it known that she felt she was more esteemed than a truck driver would be. David was determined to take his revenge on the woman who wronged him, so he came up with a plan for revenge. Make sure to check out this video and show your support by subscribing and hitting the notification bell. Let's proceed with the video. David needed to get out of here quickly. He had drastically overslept and needed to hurry if he wanted to make his appointment, but when he got behind the wheel of his truck, he realized he was blocked in. What the hell was this car doing? Standing still there? There was clearly somebody moving inside the... When David saw this, he started sounding the horn several times. David thought that it was probably just a short stop to check something, and his honking would scare this person off, but instead of the vehicle moving, he got a middle finger from behind the window, although just being awake again. David was stunned and a bit offended. He rolled down the window and started to shout with his head out of the truck towards the car in front of him that the vehicle had to move away from that illegal spot at this instant. However, the driver was not planning on doing this Now the window of the small car came down as well. Davis could see the face of a young and angry-looking girl out of the car, and before they even had a contact, she already began to shout that he needed to mind his own business and that she could do whatever she wanted. Apparently, she was doing important work. This last remark made David absolutely furious, slightly stressed that he wouldn't be able to deliver his cargo in time. The truck driver got out of his car and stormed towards the open window of the vehicle in front from what he could see up close. The young woman was not even looking at him. All she was doing was texting. He knocked on the roof of the girl's car, which finally allowed her to drop her phone to make eye contact. A discussion ensued that led to a quick realization on David's side as to what kind of woman he was dealing with. She was smug and had absolutely no respect for him from what he heard and saw. Although she did not say it to him directly, everything that came from the girl's mouth insinuated that she felt he was below her. Her father, apparently, if he wanted, could buy the whole company and have him on the street tomorrow. David needed to know his place in society. David was truly struck by all the words he knew from television that this kind of person existed, but never had he encountered someone like this spoiled young girl in his real life. Only when David threatened to call the police on her to resolve things, she decided to move. This was probably more trouble than this discussion was worth. As the car drove off, David was still vibrating from an assortment of curse words the young woman had been throwing at him when he looked up from the wheel when he was back in the car. David saw her middle finger being raised high out of her window all the way until he couldn't see the vehicle anymore, just before she had driven off. David quickly noted the number plate. This could be the end of things, although David would not let that be the case. David had been capturing the whole ordeal of what happened on his dashboard camera without the girl noticing it. This battle was to be continued. David decided he really wanted to teach this obviously spoiled young and overly rich woman a lesson. Otherwise, people like her would never change. Not even 5 minutes had passed since the indecent when David already knew how he was going to plan his revenge. First, he quickly rushed to reach his final destination in time. After successfully delivering his truckload, he looked up the plate number on his laptop. David found out that the car was registered in the city where he was. Since she had driven off in this direction, David had been hoping for. The next cargo he had to drive back to where he came from only could be made ready by the next morning, meaning that he had the whole evening left to bring his plan to fruition. The truck driver hurried his way to his appointed hotel room, and although tired, he started executing his master plan. David felt lucky to have a friend at the police with access to a lot of databases. With this connection's help, he could figure out to what house the car was actually registered. If the energy levels would let him, he would surely drive past her house in the coming night. David went for it, and at the location he'd received through his friend, he could find the car blocking him. It was parked as expected on a driveway in front of a large villa. One thing was certain: the girl had not been lying about her or her parents' wealth with a tiny flashlight. He got out of the car that he parked across the street and went up to the girl's driveway. When he read the names on the mailbox, he could see that there were multiple people registered at this address. Judging by their last names, this probably meant that the spoiled young woman was living with her parents. David imagined that this rich-born girl most likely had not achieved anything independently and that she was still just living out of her parents' full pockets. David rubbed his hands as this situation was ideal for the plan he had in mind, with her still being dependent on others. What was the truck driver up to? David took a notebook out of his back pocket and quickly wrote down the names on the mailbox before anyone spotted. Fortunately, he was in time to silently get away because the sight of him snooping around there must have looked strange. He quickly drove back to his hotel ready for the next phase, back behind his laptop, and with the name of the girl in question noted down. It was not difficult to find her social media presence. After looking around on a couple of social media platforms, it became much clearer who she was and why she did not care about blocking a truck driver like that. The latest picture she posted was a selfie in her brand new car, which her father had gifted her. He could literally see his own truck in the background of the photo. So this is what the young woman meant when she told him she was doing important. The post was also accompanied by the text, "Ol. The truck driver behind me was honking like crazy when I took this selfie. Like he has no respect for me at all. It's a free country idiot. Maybe I should ask Daddy to buy his company and have him fired. Haha." Seeing all this frustrated David greatly. How could somebody like this have everything in life they could ever want while he was here, slaving away for barely enough money to get? The world was truly unfair, but David had already known this for a long time. He tried to take a few deep breaths and catch his composure again. He could not let himself get too emotional about this. He needed to stay focused on teaching this spoiled rich girl the lesson she needed. He was going to make sure she would never do this again. David spent nearly that entire night behind his laptop working out his plan and making sure that he could set his revenge in motion the following morning. He was deadly tired when he woke up after a few hours of sleep, but it was done in the morning. David had a new load of cargo and needed to head out. He was a little sad that he wouldn't get to stick around and see what was about to happen, but there wasn't enough extra time in his schedule to stay for longer. The girl had no idea what was waiting for her. The rich girl woke up like it was any other. She didn't know anything about what the truck driver had been up to overnight, and she wasn't even thinking about the incident the day before. She was focused on the day ahead of her. That was her first mistake. The girl didn't like rushing around first thing in the morning, so she stuck to her usual routine of sleeping late, having a light meal, and then waking up by swimming a few laps. She didn't have a care in but it was only peaceful because she had no idea what was happening online. The girl had a personal rule about her mornings. She didn't like to use her phone or the internet for the first 2 hours. She was online so much that she needed space away from technology to keep a clear mind, but there were consequences to being disconnected from the world around her since the girl hadn't looked at her phone since going to bed the night before. She had no way of knowing what was going. Her phone had been alerting with notification after notification. By the time she was ready to log on for the day, there was nothing she could do to change what was already in motion. When the girl picked up her phone, she almost dropped it straight on the floor. It was hot to the touch, and when she tried to unlock it, the screen wouldn't work properly. There were so many messages and texts that her phone couldn't keep up. At first, the girl was excited. She figured something she'd done had finally gone viral and started to get her attention from the internet. That was her dream. All she wanted was to be a famous influencer. She couldn't wait to find out what had caused everyone to start paying that much attention. The girl's wish had ended up coming true while she slept. Everyone was paying attention to her and messaging her for details about what was going on in her life. She'd gone viral all across the internet and social media, but it wasn't for the reason she wanted or expected. Since her phone was still locked and wouldn't open, the rich girl grabbed her computer to log on that way and see what was going on. She fired up her laptop and started checking her social media account. She guessed out loud as she scrolled through her notifications and saw what people were saying. The girl's social media accounts were flooded with people calling her names or mocking her. Even her direct messages were full of strangers saying awful things. It wasn't just one account either. It seemed like people were targeting her everywhere. She appeared online. She started investigating, desperately trying to figure out what had happened. Finally, she figured out the reason that she was going viral. When she noticed that she was being tagged in the same post over and over, she quickly read through the message to see why she was being linked. When she saw the reason why, she felt sick to her stomach. Around the same time, David had been driving for hours and needed to take a break at a truck stop to rest and get some lunch. Plus, he was eager to know what was going on with his secret plan. He found a good place and pulled over. Once he was settled, he reached for his phone to check on the girl. David went to the rich girl's social media accounts to see what was happening. He couldn't believe it when he saw all the activity there. She was going to be famous in all the wrong ways, but just before he logged back out and went to get lunch, he noticed a notification that he hadn't been expecting. There was a message waiting in his inbox. David clicked on the notification and was surprised to see that someone had reached out to him directly. Most people who wanted to get in touch with him just called, knowing that he was often driving and unable to text slowly. He read through the message. When he reached the end, he was almost David had worked hard to make sure that his accounts couldn't be traced, but it looked like the rich girl had managed to track him down on social media. She'd sent him several messages, and it was obvious that she knew she had the right person. David wondered how she'd managed to find him. When David wrote his post, he'd sent it to different sites and chat boards around the internet. He hadn't actually tagged her directly or given her any hint that he was on social media at all. He figured that others online would spread the video of the rich girl around. David never expected her to find him. The rich girl knew everything there was to know about social media, so she'd been able to track him down almost immediately. No one else could have posted the video except David. When she found his accounts, she couldn't resist messaging him. But what was she going to? In her messages, the girl asked David to remove the video before anyone else could see it. Even though she was asking for his help, she was clearly threatening him at the same time based on her tone. But once he'd failed to respond to her messages, she tried a different strategy instead. When threatening David obviously hadn't worked, the girl pleaded with him. She begged him to remove his posts and tried to figure out what he might want in return. The video was going to ruin her dreams forever, but there was one part of the situation that the girl just wasn't seeing clearly. The girl seemed to think that David had the power to erase the video from the internet, but that wasn't the case. Once he posted it, other people had access to the video as well. They spread it all over the internet. There was nothing that David could do, but he did see one positive that would hopefully come out of the video. David hoped that the girl would remember the video as a lesson the next time she thought she was better than others or above the rules of how others behaved. When he saw how viral the video went, he couldn't help but laugh a little. The people who were sharing it had no idea how the video had been made. David's truck had a camera on the dashboard to protect him in case he was ever in an accident. That camera had captured the video of the rich. He hadn't even intended to record her, but once he had the video, he figured he might as well use it. The internet had played a role as well. The rich girl was visible enough on camera, and with the social media accounts that David had added, it was obviously her on the screen. The internet had done the rest by tracking her down on other accounts. David thought about her messages for a while before deciding what to do. David didn't reply to any of the rich girl's messages, but he kept an eye on her social media as time went on to see how the public was reacting. When she posted new content, no one had anything nice to say about it. It seemed like the internet wasn't going to let her off the hook, so the girl only had one choice left. Eventually, the rich girl stopped updating her accounts and making new posts. It was impossible to make content when all she got were negative comments. David hoped she'd find a better job and think harder about her actions in her new career. It was a hard lesson, but maybe it was what she needed. What did you think of this story? Let me know your thoughts in the comments. Like the video and subscribe. See you next time.